I obviously wish I'd never met him, because I didn't know that he was so awful.
Ghislaine Maxwell, a former British socialite with a famous surname. A woman whose life was shaped by power, wealth and controversy long before she met Jeffrey Epstein. Now, a convicted child sex offender currently serving 20 years in prison. She remains to this day a figure surrounded by speculation, conjecture and conspiracy. This is Hidden in Plain Sight, the Epstein Files. Ghislaine grew up in extraordinary privilege. The Maxwell name opened every door in business, politics and high society. Her father, media mogul Robert Maxwell, was long rumoured to have intelligence connections, speculation that only intensified after his mysterious death in 1991. After her father's sudden death and the collapse of his business empire, Ghislaine reinvented herself in New York, and she soon found herself woven into the life of one man in particular, Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, the great thing about Ghislaine Maxwell, she set off rather well. She was so well connected because of her father, the media mogul, Robert Maxwell in this country. So she kind of knew everybody. And when she moved to New York after the death of her father, she was so well positioned that Jeffrey Epstein was basically a rather shy man, and that's what attracted him to her, that she could introduce him to all the high-ranking people in Manhattan that he wanted to know, because he was a fairly middle-class guy from Brooklyn.
And then what did he do for her?
Well, he had a great deal of money. That's the main thing, and that she could spend his money freely.
What was their relationship like?
Well, it seems to be rather a strange relationship. I think they were initially lovers, but then they seem to then go on to share the young girls that he that she picked up for him. I mean, she seems to have had. Well, it is alleged that she's had sexual relationships with them too. Indeed, that's what she's been convicted of.
Do we know when that romantic relationship between the two of them stopped and when it became this, I guess, partnership where she was going out and finding young women for him and allegedly her, I guess?
I don't think it ever really stopped. I mean, they were kind of partners in crime. It was folie à deux, almost like sort of Myra Hindley. It facilitated their relationship that they were both interested in the same thing.
But from an outsider's perspective, I think people have looked at the situation and wondered whether Ghislaine Maxwell was so in love with Jeffrey Epstein that she was willing to kind of fulfill his sexual desires outside of that relationship and help him find women to fulfill those fantasies. Is that a theory that was true?
I think that's very much true, but it seems that she also participated in threesomes with him. She was obviously fulfilling some of her own desires in that.
Ghislaine Maxwell was instrumental in Andrew and Epstein's friendship. She had known the prince for years. They moved in overlapping circles, and their connection would become one of the most controversial legacies of the entire Epstein story.
Can you tell us about the relationship between Ghislaine Maxwell and Andrew, of course, formerly Prince Andrew?
Yes, they'd been friends since she had been an undergraduate, though you would think that she was quite a well-educated woman, and he's a bit of a buffoon that they wouldn't have much to talk about. But they socialised for a long time. There were rumours that they had an affair along the way, but who can tell? But it was a lasting relationship, and of course he never turned against her. He could have kind of turned state's evidence at her trial and kind of done himself some good there, but he stuck by her, and she hasn't said anything compromising about him either. So they're tight. If her situation wasn't bad enough, known, being associated with Prince Andrew is not really a very good thing at the moment, and for him equally.
Can you talk to me about Prince Andrew's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein?
We believe that they met in 1999 through Ghislaine Maxwell. Both had an interest in each other for specific reasons. I think Prince Andrew found him credible because he trusted Ghislaine. But Jeffrey Epstein had a reputation for having plenty of money, plenty of fun, plenty of opportunity for fun. So Prince Andrew wanted to stay in that social circle, I think really because it was an escape for him. And when it came to Epstein, it felt like Prince Andrew gave him the type of credibility that he needed to continue to run in the circles that he had strived to run in all his adult life. You know, he was a bit of a grifter. And Prince Andrew gave him the credibility he needed to attract some of the big names. And I think that there was something in it for both parties.
Do you think that Ghislaine Maxwell got more out of that relationship than Prince Andrew than he got out of her?
Well, indeed, because we see her and Epstein and others at various royal events. We see them at Balmoral. Yes, she got instant access to the royal family through that.
When you look at the royal family and all the woes and the scandals that they've had over the years, does a lot of it relate back to Andrew?
Yes, indeed, he's done a pretty good job, isn't he?
When Jeffrey Epstein died in his prison cell in 2019, attention swung back to Ghislaine Maxwell. For some conspiracy theorists, she became the new keeper of secrets, the last person who knew everything.
What was their relationship like with Ghislaine Maxwell, or even just their experience like with her?
Some victims never met her. Some who did meet her, I mean, their relationship was, also abusive, similar to Epstein. But I can't really go into a lot of specifics or anything like that, but also abusive, similar to Epstein.
Did the victims have any reaction to Ghislaine Maxwell being moved to a high maximum security prison earlier this year?
Yeah, I think that the reaction was positive. So long as Ghislaine is held accountable for what she's done, the reaction from the victims are positive. I think the reactions are negative when she is, appealing her conviction, because it shows that, again, she has a serious lack of accountability, or she does not want to take accountability for what she's done.
Epstein died, and they should take their disappointment and upset out on the authorities that allowed that to happen. And that, as I said, I hope that they have some closure by the judicial process that took place, and I wish them time to heal and to be able to have a productive and good life going forward. And that's what I hope for them.
With Jeffrey Epstein obviously dead, what do you think American and British authorities can do for the victims? What are you hoping for?
I think that they can dig into the truth. I think that, people who have information about, their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein or Jeffrey Epstein's criminal, trafficking should be honest about what information they know and what information they have. And I think at this point, for the victims, the most important thing is accountability and transparency. Because at the end of the day, that's really what's going to move us towards the direction of justice. And I think that our institutional bodies in America and in Britain have arguably the most power to be able to do that, right? To hold people accountable and to reveal information that's unknown. So if they can take steps to do that, then that would be, in my personal opinion, the perfect, next thing to do.
Ghislaine Maxwell's life was defined by power, privilege, and proximity to some of the world's most influential men, and by her role in enabling one of the most notorious predators of our time. Today, she serves her sentence in a US federal prison, still making headlines as she challenges her conviction, gives interviews and maintains her innocence, protesting her conditions behind bars.
I obviously wish I'd never met him. Looking back now, I probably wish I had stayed in England. But leaving that aside, you know, I tried to leave and start a new job and move on from the end of 98, 99. So I wish that I had been more successful at moving on. Because I became a banker, so I should have, you know, moved on completely. At the time, I wouldn't have had a problem introducing people to my friends to him because I didn't know that he was so awful. I mean, obviously now, looking back with hindsight, of course, but at the time, I mean, he had lots of friends. I mean, he was friendly with just about everybody you can imagine. There was no reason to imagine that he wasn't someone of interest to people.
But despite her efforts to reshape the narrative, the court record and the testimony of survivors remains unequivocal. When you're speaking to these victims, what kind of lasting impact has Epstein had on them?
I think a lifelong impact. I think that, of course, the victims have lives and families and have, to the best of their abilities, proverbially like moved on from what's happened to them, right? Because you have to as a survivor. But I do know that the impact is lasting. It's something that will be with them for their entire life. It's something that affects how they raise their children, how they think about everything that they do in their everyday life. And, you know, just being able to survive an experience like that and move on and try to find happiness and satisfaction in your life in itself is so brave of them to do. But I do know that all of the victims are very committed to making the most of their lives as survivors, but it is a lifelong impact that they carry with them.
Do they deal with a lot of PTSD?
I mean, they deal with a variety of things, you know, PTSD, sometimes there's depression, anxiety, there, you know, everybody works on it. No one has a desire to be just, you know, chained to their horrendous experiences that they went through in life. So they work on it. But yeah, definitely they have lasting PTSD, depression, anxiety, for sure.
What was that like for you and for Lisa, and I guess the rest of whoever in your firm worked on these cases? What was it like for you guys to be hearing these stories of young women being trafficked by the rich and powerful?
You know, in a strange way, it's almost hopeful, because I think that we as women are taught to blame ourselves. We're taught that if you don't say no, if you don't fight, if you don't push back, that you're the person doing the wrong, that you're to blame. And I think that it's hopeful and impactful in that just being able to acknowledge that something abusive has happened to you, just being able to tell someone else your story, is so powerful, because that's the ultimate vulnerability, right? You have to tell someone the story of how you were abused. So it's very, very admirable. It's extremely brave of them to do that. So it makes me hopeful. It makes me hopeful that, you know, to your earlier question, that abusers hopefully shed that mindset that, oh, you know, my victims won't say anything. They'll never report me, because they'll know that women have a platform and a voice to speak out about their abusers. And ultimately, that's why it makes me hopeful.
In our next episode, we'll examine the broader networks, financial, political, and international, that allowed Epstein and Maxwell to operate for so long, and the institutions that are still struggling to explain their part in it, most notably the British royal family and Prince Andrew.